Dear fellow fathers, especially ones who are husbands, this video I'm going to dedicate to my fellow husbands slash fathers out there to really encourage us to make sure we're on our P's and Q's when it comes to listening to our women. You know, the one thing I remember I was talking to my wife the other day when we were kind of having a heart to heart, and just a reminder for me anyway to make sure that I'm listening to her a lot. It's very easy as a man. I think for most men, I'm not saying all, but for most men, we are very much into figuring out problems. It's kind of like in our nature to try to be Mr. Fix-It, right? But the thing is that sometimes talking to our ladies, hopefully wives, there's an importance to really listening to what they have to say, especially when it comes to the issues they're facing, especially at work. Sometimes I learned being married. I actually learned by listening to my father and his marriage with my second mother. But the one thing he was always talking to me about was listening. Sometimes it's very difficult for us men. We're like, come on, man, get to the issue, and let's go ahead and try to figure it out. Ladies, not all the time, but many ladies, they want to give you the details. They want you to understand every aspect of the person that they're having an issue with, who they are, what happened during that day, all that kind of stuff. I think there was a study that was done that men use a certain amount of words a day. Women use a certain amount of words, which is typically much more than men, even though we men may like to talk. I do. And then the interesting thing about it is that by the time we get home, that's it. As far as males are concerned, we have spoken our piece at work, really don't want to speak about it too much else. But the ladies, they still have a bunch they have to say or need to say. And so sometimes we have to really, take the time to get off the phone, even if we're not in the best of moods, try to force ourselves to bend our wheels a little bit and say, okay, let me really listen to what she has to say. Because if you have a good woman, and behind every good man is a good woman, or behind every good woman is a good man, you're many times finding that if you're listening to her, really, really focusing on what she has to say. And let me go ahead and talk about active listening. The one thing if you're doing active listening, okay, you're listening to the person, you're looking at them, or many times you're looking at them in their eyes, and you're kind of nodding your head. You're like, okay, yeah. And don't two things with that. One is they will kind of see, okay, this person's not in their head. They're trying to show me that they're getting into what I'm saying. Two, you do need to remember what that person is saying, because you don't be like, yeah, I'm not in my head, trying to be fake about it and stuff like that. Then they ask you, what am I saying? And then you be like, you said something about Susan not coming back on time for her lunch break. And that'd be wrong, right? And she'd be and many times the ladies are very upset about that. So like I said before, it's one of those things that we had to be very, very attentive to what they are saying, but being an active listener. Don't just, let the words come in and just be like, oh my gosh, I hope she hurries up and gets this done. But really try to listen to what she has to say, take it in, tell her back what you're hearing. And then sometimes, and don't just say what you think she should do. Ask her, do you want my opinion on this? That's something I had learned recently. And I don't just do that with ladies. I do it with friends of mine that were male. But I asked the person, but I asked my wife, now, do you want me to throw out my view on this or my opinion? Or are you just, wanting me to hear what you have to say? And many times that's very much appreciated because many times she doesn't really care what I have to say. You gotta love women. But anyway, so fellow fathers, husbands, be an active listener. Pay attention to what your wife has to say. And just be there be an ear. Something to think about.